Hello everyone, I hope you're staying safe and doing well out there. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you my recap and thoughts on episode 4 of It's Okay to Not Be Okay. Sadly, no shirtless scenes of Kang Tae in this one, but we do get more insight into his past and his relationship with his mother, which is gonna make you cry for sure, so make sure to bring some tissues when you go to watch this episode. And with that, let's get into what happened in the episode and I'll share my thoughts at the end. The episode starts where we left off in episode 3 and everyone is dealing with the aftermath from Moon-young taking the patient to his father's campaign rally after he escapes the hospital. We see it's on the news already and Hong-jae is watching it in the director's office asking what he's going to do about this, and he just says, "What should we do about it?" Which of course annoys her since she wants him to act like a director and take some action and find a solution to this to save the hospital, since this is a bad thing. When the security guards finally get Gi-do under control and the hospital staff arrives, Kang Tae pretends that he doesn't remember asking Moon-young if he should just go and have fun with her when she tries to have him leave with her to go do just that. While heading over to where Gi-do is, one of the staff members who work for the politician comes up to Kang Tae and Moon-young and warns them that there are going to be consequences and they're going to pay for what they did. Moon-young scoffs at this threat, which leads the staff member to go and try and hit her, but Kang Tae gets between them and stops him and winds up throwing him to the ground. The staff member then threatens again that Kang Tae is going to pay for this later. After this conversation, Kang Tae goes to where Gi-do and the hospital staff are, and Gi-do asks that they don't be mad at Moon-young, and he actually feels better after doing what he did. This was actually a really good breakthrough for him in regards to his healing process, and even the director mentions this to his father when they meet later on in the episode. Go-dee's mother comes over when Juri goes to the family to ask to have someone act as his guardian and escort him back to the hospital. No one wants to do this and are obviously embarrassed by everything that's happened and are ashamed of their brother and child. But his mother ends up coming over, slapping him, and asks why did he have to be born so dumb and end up getting treated the way that he does and act up, because it hurts her heart, and she ends up breaking down, screaming at him and crying and then walking away. This is when Gi-do says that all this time he thought his mother didn't care about him because she had to take care of his other siblings, but that he could tell from the way she hit him and screamed at him that she loves him like crazy. When Gi-do brings up this realization to Kang Tae, we see him thinking back to when he was younger and when his mother was alive. We see moments of his mother favoring Song Tae, and one night when she's drunk talking to herself / her dead husband, she says that she's going to stay alive until Song Tae dies and then she'll pass away the next day, giving no mention or thought or care to leaving Kang Tae behind. When Kang Tae wakes up from hearing his mother talk, she holds him and he enjoys it since he obviously really loves his mom, but then she says that the reason she had him was to take care of his older brother and that he should always be there for him. On the way back to the hospital, Kang Tae rides with Moon-young, telling Juri he doesn't think she should be driving alone, and while driving through the falling cherry blossoms, which is very romantic, they end up talking about how they hate the cherry blossoms and how Kang Tae hates spring in general, since this is around the time that they always have to move. You know, because spring equals butterflies. We get a small glimpse of this butterfly fear that Song Tae has later in the episode when he's at the hospital taking reference photos for the mural he's putting together, and a butterfly lands on his hand. He gets freaked out and runs away immediately. Meanwhile, Lee Song has decided to take action and get Moon-young to come back to Seoul since her newest book, Zombie Kid, is being pulled from the shelves, and he needs her to start writing another book ASAP so they don't go bankrupt. He tells his assistant he's going on a work trip and heads to where Moon-young is. He also calls Kang Tae to confirm his suspicions about what Moon-young is thinking and feeling about him, and when Kang Tae confirms that she called him pretty and she wanted to have him, Lee Song explains to Kang Tae that she gets like this sometimes and it's more like she's hungry and she's going to eat him alive and he needs to be careful. It seems Lee Song knows a lot about her past and her habits, and this is not the first time she's done something like this. While eating ramen at the convenience store together, which Moon-young comments is very cheap since Kang Tae doesn't even shell out for kimchi, Kang Tae brings up what Lee Song had just told him about her book being pulled from the shelves and asks her why. She tells him it's because people think the illustration, story, everything is too grotesque and that they just aren't reading between the lines and seeing the true message of the book. She tells him he should read it and let her know what he thinks. He scoffs at this, saying he's too old to read fairy tales, but she thinks he's actually the perfect age, and she tells him that. This leads Kangtae to asking Moon-young how old she is, and I think because she's acting so childish, he asks this, and she responds that she's a little kid, but not as much of a little kid as he is, since she can see in his eyes that all he wants is to be loved. This seems to strike a nerve with Kangtae and makes him see her in a different light, since she was able to read him so easily, even though he would never admit that to himself or anyone else. I'm kind of thinking that when she said that, it really hit home, especially after we see the relationship he had with his mother when she was alive. Her saying this and what looked to be affection he saw in her when she said it seems to make Kangtae forget what she can be like. But that doesn't last long, since when they're finished eating, they head back to the hospital, and Moon-young wants to hear his voice and not the radio, so Kangtae asks her why she hasn't been taking her father for a walk like she promised. She again says she never promised that, and promises are kind of trash anyway. She also doesn't see the point, since he has dementia, and says she kind of wishes he would just die and get it over with. Right after saying these very horrible things about her father, Moon-young then asks Kangtae how his parents died, and tells him about doing the background check on him, since when she asks that, he's like, how does she know? This leads him to asking her to pull over, and when she doesn't, he takes the wheel and makes her, since her prying and I think everything else that she just said before that reminded him that she's a horrible, crazy person and he needs to stay as far away from her as possible. Confused by what made him angry exactly, she tries to get him to come back by suddenly confessing to him, and then when that doesn't work, just trying it over and over again, saying, I love you.
사랑해. 사랑해 강태 씨. 사랑한다고. 사랑한다니까. 진짜 너무너무 사랑해. 또 도망치냐? 내가 사랑한다는데 왜 도망쳐? 왜? 사랑해. 야!
While that's going on, the hospital staff are meeting to figure out what to do about Moon-young and her involvement with the whole patient escaping incident. The director doesn't see what she did as kidnapping, since Guido willingly got in her car, but most of the staff do feel that it's a good idea to fire her. This is when he looks to Juri and brings up that Juri knows Moon-young, and when she confirms that they knew each other when they were young, he says that makes them practically friends, and she should decide. When she agrees that they should fire her, the director says, we have some time, let's wait, and tells their lawyer to get ready to be sued again. The way the lawyer responds, it seems like this is a common occurrence, and it's just like, oh great, another one. That evening, while Kangtae and Sangtae are at the store buying Sangtae art supplies to paint the mural, Kangtae notices some similarities in Moon-young's behavior that are kind of like Sangtae's. He has a flash of what Moon-young had been saying when he sees Sangtae notice a new set of dinosaurs, and pretty much says the same thing that Moon-young had said about him. So I'm wondering if he's starting to kind of connect that even though they seem so different, how they think and see things might be similar. When Moon-young arrives at the mansion, the CEO of the publishing company is waiting for her and pleads with her to come back to Seoul and write her new book, and that she shouldn't be staying in this house since this is where it happened with her mother. When she doesn't seem to be budging and even asks him to move into the mansion with her, he ends up leaving and going to get some food, which happens to be the pizza place that Jae-soo owns. This is also where he meets Juri and tries to hit on her, and this is kind of showing that Juri, she can have any guy she wants, but she obviously just only has eyes for Kangtae. That evening, we experience another haunting flashback with Moon-young, where she's sitting in the mirror, brushing her hair, and her mother appears, telling her how special she is and that she's her mother's greatest creation. We then see young Moon-young at a locked door holding a key and what looks like her mother dead and wet from drowning on the other side, and water is starting to drain through the crack at the bottom of the door. I'm wondering if this is a representation of Moon-young's subconscious and being in the house is unlocking memories of what happened that she's obviously been trying to suppress for years. So remember how it seemed the director was waiting to make a decision about what to do about the situation they're in involving the local politician and his son? Well, it all works out in the end, since the next day the politician came in demanding that Kang-tae and Moon-young come and formally apologize to him for what happened. Kang-tae goes and tells Juri not to reach out to Moon-young and that he'll handle this himself. While meeting with the patient's father, he tells the director and Kang-tae that he plans to move his son from hospital to hospital to keep him hidden and locked up, since he's crazy and he doesn't want anything to do with his son. The director doesn't agree with the plan that the politician has in mind for his son and tells him that his son is actually doing better after the incident, since that's what he needed to recover and work on his mental health, and that he actually was planning on releasing him because he's getting better. This pisses off the politician, and he says that he doesn't need a useless son, and this is when Kang-tae can't stay quiet any longer and ends up talking back to the patient's father, and the father slaps him hard across the face.
쓸모가 없다.
뭐?
자식이 부모한테 꼭 무슨 쓸모가 있어야 되는 건가?
자식은 부모가 필요해서 낳는 거다. 네 엄마 아버지한테 가서 물어봐. 아무짝에도 쓸모없는 자식 새끼가 필요한지 안 한지.
그럼 낳지 말았어야지!
이 새끼가 어디 감히 보호사 주책?
Now, what the politician doesn't know is the director had a CCTV camera in his office and it was on. Since he meets with patients in there, I think it's there for, safety purposes. So when the head nurse comes in later, barely knocking on the door, being like, "What are you going to do about this?" he shows her the footage of the politician hitting Kang-tae and is like, "Well, I think we're just going to blackmail him and that's going to fix everything." And the nurse is just blown away and just impressed, like he finally did something, Of course, then she starts worrying that he might come after her next, and it kind of tests the water and is like, "So we're still good, right?" Meanwhile, Kang-tae is trying to calm his rage and upset from being slapped by the patient's father, and Song-tae, who is actually at the hospital, ends up meeting Moon-young, who shows up on her day off to walk her father, since she thinks that might be why Kang-tae got mad at her in the car, and she's trying to kind of get on his good side again. Song-tae, so happy to meet her, and the scenes of them taking photos together, them talking, and him doing a caricature of her, it's just all super, super sweet. However, when Kang-tae finds them together, he's super upset since he doesn't want Moon-young anywhere near his brother, and when he tries to get Song-tae to leave with him, and he doesn't want to because, he wants to stay with Moon-young, Kang-tae snaps and ends up yelling at his brother, which leads to Song-tae hiding in the kitchen later on, thinking his brother doesn't like him anymore. When this interaction happens outside, Moon-young notices Kang-tae's face as well and asks if he got slapped and who did it, and that he should tell her so that she can take care of it for him. Kang-tae asks why she wants to do that and what does it make her feel, and when she doesn't respond, he tells her,
넌 몰라. 네가 지금 무슨 감정으로 이렇게 날뛰는 건지 너도 모른다고. 속은 텅 비었고 그냥 소리만 요란해. 깡통처럼. 너 죽을 때까지 나 몰라.
After this, Moon-young goes to meet with Juri and her father to take him on the walk she promised she would do, and he ends up asking her why she's still alive and she needs to die. He then jumps from his wheelchair and tries to choke her while calling her a monster. The staff get him off of her, and while they're trying to calm him down, Moon-young just lays on the ground laughing as a tear runs down her face, saying kind of that she's not surprised by that. But I think she's actually very hurt, you know, I would be, and we see Moon-young just kind of walk away from the whole situation as everybody's focused on her father. Kang-tae sees her walking on the side of the road when he's on the bus on the way home, and we hear in a voiceover of Moon-young when we see again Kang-tae telling her she'll never understand him until the day she dies, that she thinks the same about him and how she feels, since obviously he doesn't know about her past, and she just obviously feels and expresses her emotions differently. When Kang-tae goes home, we see him doing chores and even cleaning Song-tae's dinosaur that he carries around in his backpack. While emptying and putting away Song-tae's books and supplies from his backpack, he finds the caricature that Song-tae did of Moon-young and the book Zombie Kid that had been pulled from the shelves. He decides to read it, and the story and ending hits super close to home for him, and he ends up weeping and thinking back on his childhood again and how desperately he wanted his mother's love and affection that she pretty much only gave to Song-tae, and this was just heart-wrenching.
몸통만 남은 엄마를 아이가 양팔로 꽉 끌어안으며 처음으로 한마디를 해. 엄마는 참 따뜻하구나.
Later on, Jisoo comes to check in because Juri asked him to, and this is when he tells Kang-tae what happened to Moon-young and her father and how he choked her. Connecting the dots and realizing why Moon-young had been walking down the road, he asks to borrow Jisoo's motorcycle and drives to where he last saw her while it's pouring down rain. When he finds her just standing in the rain, getting drenched, he gives her his jacket, and as he's reaching over to put it on her shoulders, she collapses in his arms to force him to hold her, and they end the episode with them holding each other in the rain. I gotta say, the most heart-wrenching part of this whole episode was seeing young Kang-tae and how his mother treated him, and that she made it very obvious that Song-tae was her world and, in her mind, kind of only child. Kang-tae was literally just around to take care of his brother in his mother's eyes. When Kang-tae starts crying over the ending of the fairy tale book and just the overall message, oh my gosh, I felt for him. I felt so bad. Moon-young is right. All he's ever wanted was to be loved, and we see that that has not been the case. Kang-tae is loved, but he isn't feeling the love. You know, he's always been taking care of someone, even at his job, and there's a lot to unpack there for sure. I'm also getting very curious about the flashbacks that Moon-young is having. Seeing her younger self holding that key to a locked door, it just felt a lot like foreshadowing. Like, right now, she has what happened to her mother, or what she did, or what happened there kind of lock and keyed, and the little girl in her is thinking about opening that door. So I'm interested to see what happens there. And I was a little worried, but I did love the scenes of Moon-young and Song-tae when they meet at the hospital. And though she's not very sensitive to his condition, it's definitely seeming like they're kindred spirits. Especially when we see Kang-tae thinking about Moon-young and noticing the similarities between them while he's at the store with Song-tae. Just in how when they see an object or something that they like, they're just like, it's pretty, I want it, I have to have it. So even though they're very different, it kind of seems like they think the same way. Like, one of the things that we saw when Song-tae was hiding in the kitchen was he was trying to decipher Kang-tae's face to figure out if he was upset, if he was angry, because that's something that he had to learn. He's not able to just look at someone's face and know. He had to kind of be taught, and he still struggles with it. Whereas Moon-young, it may be that she doesn't care, but maybe she doesn't get those social cues either. I think that there's a connection there, even though they seem very different. I think that they're kindred spirits. The episode definitely made me cry, and my heart goes out to Kong Tae, and I can't wait to see what happens next. And with that, I'm going to end this episode. If you liked this video and want to know when my next one in the series is up, please make sure to subscribe and click the bell to be notified when a new video is up. And until then, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.